Hello, hello. This is Els coming to you from Bemis Crafty Corner. And I went to the Tuesday morning because I had the DEF CONs over and they wanted to make some notebooks, some journals. So I went ahead and took them over to the store so they could get some 6x6 pads and a little bit of ephemera that they needed to finish up their stuff. And I saw this set of chipboard stickers. And I thought to myself that this would be adorable. You know, summer's coming. It's kind of cute. Why don't you do a traveler's notebook? And I hit myself in the head and said, let's do a traveler's notebook. So I grabbed this and I was like, all set. And I was on my way out the door when I saw this and I went, they have the pad. So I grabbed the pad, and when I got home, I realized it really wasn't what I was looking for this particular project. Even though it's cute, it's just not for this project. So who knows? I might take it back. I might keep it. I might give it away. Who knows? I might even use it. So this is the project that I wanted to complete. This is a cute little traveler's notebook, and this is actually scrapbook paper, and I used a cold laminating process that I'm going to show you how to use. And if you've never done it before, it's going to change the way you do these. Okay, so let's do our laminated cover. For this, we're going to be using 2 pieces of scrapbook paper, and this is my mind's eye, so it is a little bit thicker. But what we're going to be doing is cutting 2 pieces that are 8.5 by 9.5. We're going to decide which one's going to be our actual cover and which one's going to be our inside. And we're going to take a piece of laminate cut at 9.5 by 10.5, and we are going to separate the laminate from the paper. Once we get the paper off, this will actually lay down a whole lot better. So what I'm going to do is just carefully pull up this edge so that I don't wrinkle the laminate. And once I have that edge pulled up, then I can go ahead and just separate the two pretty quickly. All right, here we go. And then I'm going to just lay this down on my board, and I'm going to take the piece that I'm going to be using as my cover, and I'm going to put it so that I have about a 1/2 inch all the way around. Just like that. And I'm going to be using my bone folder to come in here and get some of the air bubbles out before this is totally smoothed down. And you can use the credit card for this, or, you know, the grocery store card, or whatever you want to use, as long as even the edge of your regular bone folder, okay? So once we have all the air bubbles that we want out of here, this is going to be permanently adhered to this paper, so don't try to pull it up like contact paper. It's not going to work, guys. Then we're just going to nip the corners as we would if we were just going to be covering a book. And we're just going to miter these out. And I have learned to hold on to these pieces because they're slippery little suckers, and they'll get away from you if you don't. You'll find them in the middle of something. And then we're just going to bring the edges in nice and tight up against the paper. And I like to work from the middle to the edge, and then just go over it with my bone folder just to make sure that I get a nice adhesion. I'm going to do all 4 sides here pretty quick. Go over them just to make sure they're adhered well. All right. Now for the next part of this, I'm going to be putting tape all the way around the edge, and then I'm going to be putting some glue in the center. And I'm going to try not to put too much glue here in the middle. All right, so I have my tape, and I'm just going to add some extra glue in the center so that this adheres well. And then I'm just going to set this down, and I'm going to use my grid board as kind of a directional here. And then I'm going to take my other sheet and I'm going to line up my corners and my edges. And once I have that lined up, I'm going to go for broke and just push it all down. Okay? Then I'm going to go over this again with my bone folder. Now what I've done is I've used the tape to adhere the paper on the edges, so I'm sealing the laminate that I put on here. And that's pretty much our laminated cover. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the center of this really quick. And the easiest way to do that is simply to fold it in half, line up your corners, and just kind of push down in the middle. That's about your midpoint, okay? So then we're going to take a hole punch. Now, we can't punch a hole, obviously, in the center of this because, well, we don't have a hole punch that long. So we're going to take our hole punch, and a trick here is to hold this in half, just like that. Find what you think is about center, and just take like a half a punch. That's going to give you a hole in the middle, okay? Then we're going to set our depth on our hole punch to 1/2 inch. And right below that, we're going to come in and we're going to punch one hole. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're just kind of eyeballing to make sure that, you know, it looks even. So we're going to have a couple of holes here. And at this point, I'm going to put in some brads. Okay, if you do not have a brad setter like this, you can use a brad setting tool. Okay, how to set a brad 101. Now, if you can't use your brad pliers because it's in the middle of a paper, then you need to know how to set this. There's a couple of ways you can do it. There's this little tool here that you can use. You just kind of put it on the top and you tap it and it flattens the brad out. Or you can use this one and you tap it and it flattens out your brad. I know, right? That's it. It's that easy. Now, as for the ones on the outside, for those, we're simply going to push them in from the outside in. We're going to be putting our plier on it, and we're going to squeeze this. Now, you normally don't have to squeeze this hard, but I have carpal tunnel, so I have no strength in my hands. So I have to use 2 hands to do this. Okay. The good news is that I'm working the girls, right? Okay. Brad in hole. Pliers on brad. Brad in hands. Squeeze. Brad set. See? Okay. Now, the next part of this is to take a ruler and you're going to find the center of your hole and you just want to come a 1/2 inch out on either side. Either side. And you just want to make a little dot. I'm going to make it with a black pen so you guys can see it. So we got a 1/2 inch here and we've got a 1/2 inch here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. Center of hole, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Okay. Now we've already set our hole punch to a 1/2 inch, so we know it's going to be the right distance. We're just going to come in right over the dot, pop a hole. Do the same thing on the other side. We're going to do that over there, and we're going to set brads in all of these, and then I'll be right back to show you how to string this. All right, so we're going to be using this cord. It's elastic cord. You find this in the jewelry department. We're going to make sure that we have enough, so we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not putting any stress on this. We're going to have at least 4 lengths. What we're going to do is come up through the center. We're going to go down through the center at the top. We're going to come up through the hole next to it. You would think I could get this through. It's a big hole, right? There we go. And then we're going to come down. We're going to go back through the middle. back through the top middle. We're going to move over to the next hole. We're going to come through that hole. And we're going to head down. Now we're going to take that tail that we left originally, put it up through that empty hole. So now I have basically a cord that goes down and up and down and up and down and up. Okay, so I have 4 pieces here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I have just these 2 loops on the outside. So then I'm going to take this in here at about center, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can do this right over left, left over right, or you can just tie it in a, a 2-string through the middle kind of knot. However you want to do it, but you're going to tie this nice and tight. And in order to do that, you actually have to pull all 4 pieces of the cord, and then we're going to cut this off, and we're going to keep this because we're going to be using this for the next part. A little bit of string we had left and a small button. And all we're going to do is thread the 2 ends of our elastic thread through the button. Okay? 1 piece through any one of 2 holes in the button. And then we're just going to tie a double knot here. And we're going to pull that nice and tight. Okay? We can trim these down a little bit. They don't have to be quite so long. Just like that. And then we're going to pull the button back. At this point, we're just going to take the loop that we've created and put it through that center brad. Okay? Now that becomes our closure piece. Now we are done with this portion. We're going to move on to inserts. All right, let's talk about the inserts real quick. The inserts are just a few pieces of craft paper or whatever you're using. The first one is just one solid sheet of 8.5 by 11. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it on the 11-inch side and you're going to score it at 7.5. Now, this might be a little different for yours, depending upon your measurements. For me, it's 7.5. Then I'm going to turn it up to my 8.5 side, and I'm going to score it 4.25. All the way down. And then I'm going to have 3 pieces that are about 4 inches long and 1 inch wide. And I'm just going to score these at the 1/2 inch. Now you can eyeball these and just fold them in half if you want to. I like to score them just because I like them to be nice and neat. So we're going to go in here and do these. And then we're going to have 2 other pieces for this. And that is one piece that is 4.25 inches wide by 3.5 inches. And then another piece that is 7.5 inches by 2 inches. Okay? So let's do this. So the first thing we're going to do is take the big piece that we've scored and we're going to fold it in half. Easy peasy. Okay? Fold it in half, line up your edges, then use your bone folder and just put that crease in. Okay? Then we're going to take a pair of scissors, and on the folded side, we're just going to take a very small nip out of there, okay? From the bottom up to the folded center. And we want to go all the way to that score line. So just a little bit up to the score line, and that's it. Okay, this is really tiny stuff here. So when we open this up, we've created 2 pockets already. And all we're going to do is bring those up, line up the outside edge of the paper, and we're just going to go over those with the bone folder. Okay, we'll do the first one. We'll line up the second one. We'll press that one down as well. And then we're just going to put a little bit of glue on this outside edge. Fold it up. Now you can glue the center if you want to, but I think it's just easier to get more stuff in here if you have less glue. So now we've done both sides. We've created 2 pockets in here. And if we fold this up, We can go on to the front or the back, whichever one you want to do this on. And the next pocket is pretty simple. It is a 7.5-inch piece of paper, and it is the same height as your pocket. If it's not, and it's a little bit off, just take your scissors and just kind of trim it. Okay. And then for this one, we're going to round these top corners. So we're just going to round 2 of the corners on the long ends. And this is just going to be glued right here as a pocket. So we're just going to glue down the side and across. And we're just going to fit this on, lining up our straight edge on our top and bottom. We'll press it down. Give it a second to dry. Now, if you want to decorate these, fantastic. But you can do that after you get them all put on here. Now, the next piece is 4¼ inches wide and 3.5 inches tall. 3.5. And for this one, we're going to gusset this. Okay, so that's where these little pieces are going to come in. We're going to fold them in half, and we are going to hit them with the bone folder just to tighten them up. And then we are going to basically put this on to our pocket, and we are going to clip it off at the end. Lots of technical measuring here. And then we're going to need 2 of those, one for each side. So we'll just put one next to the other. Make them even. And from the folded side to the open side, we're just going to miter in on both of these. And then we need one to go across the bottom. So again, we're just going to kind of hold it up and align it, nip off the little bit that's extra on the end, miter it in. And then we're just going to put these on with some glue or tape, your choice. And we'll put the bottom one on first. So we're just going to take that, put it across the bottom of our pocket, lining up the outside edge with the fold. And we'll do that on both of the sides as well. Matching up the fold, the outside edge, pressing down. And then we're just going to put some glue on these flaps here, bottom and both sides. And then we're just going to put this on the back, lining up the bottom, lining up the edges, and we're just going to hold that for just a moment and let it dry. Now again, this is the time that you're going to want to decorate. You can put some paper, some pretty paper in here. You can put some paper here, and you can put some paper on your pocket in the back. The only thing really left to do here is just to round the corners. And we're going to round just the front corners here. go. And that's it. That's our first insert. Just decorate it up and it goes into your book, okay? All right, so I want to put a notebook in my notebook, right? Because I want to be able to write things down. And so I already know that it has to be less than 4.5 inches across. So we're going to make it 8.5. That way it's 4.25 when I fold it in half, and that should come just inside. And then I need to know how tall to make it. So in order to do that, all I do is take my ruler and I measure where my string comes in to where my string goes out. It's about 7.5 inches. So I know that this can't be more than 7.5 inches tall. So let's cut this 8.5 by 11 down to 7.5. And then all I'm going to do is fold this in half. And I'm just going to go over it with my bone folder. And I'm going to do the same thing to a piece of cardstock because I actually want to make this look very nice on the outside. So it's going to have to be 7.5 inches tall. So do I want this on my book or this? Well, obviously I want the decoration. So let's go 7.5 this way. And then 8.5 this way. And again, this is the decor that I want, so I'm going to make sure that I preserve it. And again, I'm just going to fold this piece in half. So this is going to become my front. Tape or glue doesn't matter here. The idea is just to get them together, one on top of the other. And this will create the cover for the little journal that I'm going to put in here. Okay, so the way that I do this is I just put glue on one half of my cover because I don't want to put a lot of glue on and I don't want it to dry before I can set it up. And this is art glitter glue, so I can use very little glue and still get a nice adhesive. And then I take my piece and I lay it on here and then I just fold it over. Okay. And then I do the other side. So I'm just going to take, and for this I'm just using regular paper because it's just for taking notes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half. And I want about 5 or 6 sheets. So let's make sure we don't have too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, we did have too many. Okay. So we're going to take 6 sheets of paper. It's kind of the max here. I'm going to fold these in half. Line them up. And then press them down with my bone folder. And as a unit, I'm going to cut these down to about 7.25. Now, if you have a smaller cutter, you're not going to be able to do this. Okay, you need something that is a blade cutter and not just a paper trimmer. Okay, so we're going to take that off. And then what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to stitch them into that book before I do any other cutting. So I'm going to put them in here where I want them. Get them even side to side. And then I'm going to be poking some holes. Now, because this is on the inside, fancy's not important. I'm going to come up about 1 inch on either side and split the difference. So I'm giving it 5 holes. And I'm going to stitch this in very quickly using a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, which you've seen me do 1,000 times. Okay, so I have stitched my paper into my book. Not the prettiest book I've ever made, but doesn't have to be. It's going inside of a traveler's notebook. This is the kind of book that you throw in the glove box of your car, the kind of books you throw in your pocket, you put it in your purse, you throw it in a suitcase, it gets bumped around. So pretty doesn't necessarily come into play here. So now that I have this in here, I'm going to take my cutter and I am going to make sure that I get all of this cleaned up by simply taking just a scant bit off. I'm going to take this down to about 4 1/4. And that's going to get all of that off of there that I don't want. Turn it over. Go to 4 1/4 on this side as well. And I get this. There's people right now that are going, oh my God, she's so lazy. That's not the way to do that. Well, you know what? I don't need to sit here and spend 20 years making a tiny little throwaway notebook, okay? I want to be able to get this in. So now that I actually have this done, I'm going to go through and round my corners. I've done 6 pieces of paper, which I can do one time. See, this isn't a journal. What this is this is a practical tool. If it was a journal, then we'd go a little slower and we'd be a little bit more careful. But a traveler's notebook isn't really meant to be a showpiece. It is meant to be a working tool. Okay, so we have all of our inserts. We have a cover, and we have added some stuff here. So let's put this whole thing together. And I have 4 strings in here, so I can put 4 things in. And so what I am going to do is I think I'm going to put a notebook up in the front. So I'm just going to start on the front cord, and I'm just going to put a notebook in. And then I'm going to put in a pocket. So I'll put this one in. And then my other notebook. And my last pocket. All right. So now I have my traveler's notebook. So let me show you what I've done in here. Obviously, this is not the one that I did in the video. And that is basically because this is the one I plan on using, and that was just to show you the steps. So the first thing I did is I did make a notebook for this, and it is 6 pages, so that's 24 pages in there. And I tied it off with a simple stitch, and then I did a first pocket. This is that one that I showed you in the video, where I have like a 2-inch pocket here so that I can add some things. I just added some map paper to the front. Then I have my 2 inside pockets that I showed you. And for this one, I actually just rounded both top and bottom pieces and put in a couple of project life cards because I have way too many of them. These are from K&company. These are part of the Rome series. These are the metal elements, and I've added those in. And then I have some tags here that are also from K&company. These are from the road trip tag pad. And I added those in, and then I put in another notebook. And then I have one more pocket here in the back, and I have some more journal project cards in here. And I put a slash pocket on this side, my 2 inside pockets here, and I put a security envelope on the back here so that I can keep my receipts from going all over the car. So I just have this little security envelope here. There we go. And that way I can just tuck my receipts into here and I don't have to worry about them getting lost. So go ahead and just wrap this up. And that's it, guys. That is my traveler's notebook, my version of it. A laminated cover traveler's notebook ready to go. Plenty of room in here to expand. And, you know, this thing could get like this. Who knows? It could be real gator mouth. Anyway, that's it, guys. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the red subscribe button for me. Like me, ring my bell, and share me with all your friends. Because I'm making this little traveler's notebook. And I got this roll of laminate. And, you know, stuff. Bye-bye.